Hey everyone, Sounds Tech and Travel here, and I'm absolutely excited here, now that I finally got my hands on it, to do a review of the Samsung 980 Pro SSD. This is actually a product I've been actually looking forward all year long, pretty much, to really get my hands on. It's also been widely anticipated that Samsung will be releasing an SSD that will take full control and advantage of the PCI 4th Gen speeds that you can possibly offer, and you can actually see that over here. The read speeds can hit up to about 5K megabytes, which is almost pretty much double of the previous generation, the 970 Pro, which I actually have done a review myself here. You can actually see the box over here as well too. Amazing product. But here we are, 980 Pro with really amazing blazing speeds here. And at the moment, it's currently available in 250, 500, and of course, 1 terabyte capacity sizes. And I believe the 1 terabyte does have a larger amount of cache, so therefore a good potential for having much better speeds if you actually compare it to a smaller size like the 250 gigabyte one. So let's go ahead and pop this open to get this installed. And here we are, the 980 Pro SSD itself. And funny enough, I'm gonna do an old little joke that I did in some previous SSD drive reviews like this. I'm pretty sure it's gonna pop out like a stick of gum, and there you go. I swear, it never fails. Here's the SSD itself. Really close look over here, underneath as well too. Seems like it almost feels like it has a little bit of well, I thought it would have a little bit of a heat sink. Kind of hard to tell here because it's just basically just a sticker. So let me go ahead and put this back, and I'm gonna go ahead and plug this into a computer. And here you can see the SSD already installed in the top M2 slot. That particular slot, the top M2 slots, are usually optimized and controlled directly by the CPU as opposed to the internal onboard chipset. And that's actually where you would want this particular drive to be. Now, depending on which chipset you're using, in this case is the X570. The additional M2 slots are also running at Gen 4 speeds as well too. But other chipsets such as the B550s, I believe, are running at Gen 3, so just something to think about and consider as well too. Doesn't mean you can't have two, of course, M2 SSDs installed, but just bear in mind which chipset you're using. You can actually, or which chipset you want to use, depending on how many SSDs you're going to be using, and of course optimization for which ones you'll be getting as well too. Here we have the Windows 10 installation ready to go, and the drive is installed, so let's go ahead and give this a go right over here. This may or may not ask me for drivers. If you are doing a Windows 7 installation, very likely, almost 100%, it will be asking you for drivers during the installation. Over here, I guess we'll see if it actually does. Doesn't seem like it's going to actually, otherwise it'll be asking for it right over here. And you actually do see our Samsung 980 Pro is actually showing up here. 1 whole terabyte, formatted obviously appears a little bit smaller. So we'll just go ahead and click on next to proceed. You do have the option to install a driver if one is needed. And just bear in mind, I actually have run into this issue before. If you do run into an issue where you are being asked for a driver, and it does give you the option to look for a driver, but then you notice that the drive itself is actually visible in the installation. And if you even have any other secondary hard drives, in this computer in this case has a mechanical hard drive, which I unplugged for the time being during this process here, it actually could just be a little bit of a glitch. I have run into this even in Windows 7. Try moving your thumb drive, if you're installing Windows 10 off a thumb drive, which very likely you are, to another port, another USB 3 port. If you're not having luck there, use a USB 2. And once you actually reattempt this again, you'll be a little surprised to actually see no driver needed. I can't really explain this particular phenomenon, but I have run into it a number of times, including Windows 10 installations. So just keep that in mind if this issue does actually pop up. You can actually see here the files are actually being copied over fairly quickly on USB 3 speeds, obviously. And of course, the SSD speed definitely doesn't hurt either. I'm pretty sure this whole installation process from start to go probably won't take more than 5 minutes for the most part. So let's go ahead and see how long this will take. I will actually be doing one or two little benchmarks on this drive to see if it really does hit the 7,000 megabytes a second speed, and see what kind of write speeds we get as well too. Previously, I've done a couple of review videos on the 970 Pro, which I've really done some in-depth benchmarks in, and you'll see that that particular drive hits around 3,000 to 3,500 read and write speeds, or so and so similar. And I've actually been able to get those speeds even off an older motherboard. So let's go ahead and get this rebooted. One reboot, and hopefully this will all be done. During installation, the amount of reboots can actually just vary. I definitely do see at least one. And even in the process of doing one, I see another one before you eventually get up to this screen here. Well, you'll eventually hit the welcome screen. So this actually took just about 5 minutes to actually hit here. So not bad whatsoever. Pretty amazing speed so far. But let's go ahead and skip ahead, get this some chipset drivers installed and everything else, and run that benchmark off the Samsung drive, and then possibly do a little reboot test. And of course, something everyone wants to see, how long this sucker takes to boot up as well too. So we got some basic drivers from Microsoft downloaded from Windows Update installed, video card drivers, etc. Another couple little things here are not installed yet, but that's perfectly fine. And you actually can see here on the disk drives and the device manager, you do see our 1 terabyte 980 Pro. Let me go ahead and switch the view on this so to give everybody a much better view of this particular benchmark and just some other little details here as well. Isn't this a much better view over here? So here you can actually still see the drive over here. I did go ahead and download the latest version of the Samsung Magician software right over here. Just going to go ahead and extract and install this as well too. This is actually very likely necessary to get the top speeds off the SSD itself. I'm going to go ahead and double click over here. Yes, definitely not safe, who knows. Now, one thing I have noticed with this particular drive, unlike the 970 Pro, which I've done a review for previously, there is a particular driver that is installed to appear right under here that replaces the standard NVMe Express control driver. Not the case here for some reason, as you'll see in a moment. It actually just installs the software and poof, even using the regular basic driver that comes with Windows 10, top speeds can definitely be achieved. So let's go ahead and get all this out of the way. The software itself does have its own benchmark software, but feel free to actually use any other benchmark software you may be accustomed to, obviously. Crystal Diskmark is definitely a very good one. And now we got the Samsung Magician software up and running. You can see the Samsung drive right over here, the 980 Pro. You also do note as well down here is another hard drive, which is basically my mechanical hard drive. I did go ahead and plug it back in at one point, just because I want to go ahead and record this particular on-screen video on the mechanical hard drive and keep the Samsung 980 Pro completely clear while doing its benchmark. It'd be kind of silly to actually be recording a video onto it while doing the benchmark at the same time. So right now it's completely clear and not in use. Some other little features here in the software, obviously here, some details, temperature obviously, otherwise the sucker will start throttling down if it gets too warm. Heat sinks have actually been pretty much in use and becoming a little bit more popular. Some motherboards even do have, including the one I'm using here, some little heatsink options as well too to keep the drive a little cooler. They may or may not help, but heatsink in general will always help with heat. Some other options here which may or may not be available for this particular drive, obviously performance benchmark, which we'll be doing in just a moment. Diagnostic scan, which it does say here not available. For some reason the mechanical hard drive shows up here as well too, but I won't be selecting it. Over provisioning, and of course performance optimization. This is actually an option that's been available on many Samsung SSDs, including the 970 Pro, even going back to like the 940s and 950s, which I've actually owned years ago and still have a few, and a couple of them still in use in some computers. And never actually used the feature myself, though I have read and seen that you can actually almost double the performance of the SSD itself. I've always found the performances of them actually to be pretty good already, so I never actually made use of it. but it's definitely an option here, though this does say that it is not available and doesn't support it. One thing I do plan to do here eventually at some point is try to get 2 of these drives and put them in RAID, which can be pretty monstrous speeds there, and that would be an amazing video to actually record. So some other options here as well too. Secure erase if you wanted to wipe the drive out completely. Saying it's not supported here. I gotta look into this. It could be possibly because maybe I'm off the internet at the moment, and I'll definitely get into that in just a moment here. Or maybe just the software needs an update, even though this is the latest version, so that'd be a little silly. But that's okay. Of course, the options here for encryption as well too. You can actually see it's all not featured here. Let's go ahead and jump into what we are all looking forward to, crunching the numbers and seeing exactly what this drive can do. So here we go. Numbers say read speeds are hitting around 7,000, write speeds anywhere between 3, 4, and 5,000, so to speak. And we'll see here. Obviously, a lot of factors can kick into that. How much of the drive is being used. Obviously, if the drive is being used in general. Obviously, going back to my recording video. I believe if the drive is over 50, 60, 70%, you might start seeing some degree of performance drop to some of them. Can't even tell you what kind of percentage. Obviously, not using this drive in its correct way, having it in a PCI Express Gen 3 slot probably will definitely cause an issue. Probably seeing speeds of around 3,500, similar to the 970 Pro. So many options can also factor in as well to why this may not hit top speed. But right now, we are seeing speeds of 7K read, which is basically double the 970 Pro that I previously did a review on, which is astonishing. It's almost like having 2 970 Pros in RAID. So now I'm actually waiting on the write speed, which may be 3 or 4K, probably even higher. Temperature, obviously, as I said earlier, can definitely be another issue. If I actually were to do this benchmark over and over and over for many, many minutes, I'm pretty sure the speed will start to decrease at some point, just because the drive is potentially getting a little too warm. And about a crazy write speed of about 5.2, almost double the 970 Pro speeds I was seeing. I believe I'm actually getting some write speeds of around 2,500, just a little under 3,000. So definitely, yeah, almost about double. Some numbers can actually be a little higher, so I'm going to say just less than double, since the write speed numbers on the 970 Pro are usually labeled to be around 3,000, just a little bit less as well too. And our benchmark here is pretty much almost done. Kind of loving how the software has like a little ad going on here, giving you all these portable and other little shots over here. So, numbers look really amazing. Absolutely amazing. I can totally just fathom what this can actually be in RAID mode. So, numbers don't lie. It's a really amazing drive right over here. And even just doing the random reboot earlier on my own, the drive definitely does show its performance to a degree. Speaking of which, why don't we go ahead and do a quick reboot and also turn the computer off completely and see how long this sucker takes to actually boot up into Windows 10. I'm gonna have to go ahead and switch back to my camera here, so let's go. I'm gonna go ahead and power this computer on. 3, 2, 1. This computer here in particular is actually a little on the noisy side just because I have so many fans on it. This actually is the machine that I use for editing a little bit. And so here we go. Completely interrupted myself. Post screenshot right there, and here we are in Windows 10. So what did it take from post time? About 4 or 5 seconds, if anything. From the moment I turned it on, well, definitely longer. Every motherboard does take quite a while to post, so to speak. Some computers take longer, others take a short time. BIOS updates definitely can be a big factor as well too. And this particular motherboard in mind did take hella longer to actually just post itself, and some BIOS updates definitely have resolved that. Let me go ahead and do a restart test now. Now this can definitely vary, obviously, because this is just basically a basic Windows 10 installation with little or no software. Even most drivers are not even installed other than just the ones that just came from Windows Update and Microsoft. System's posting again. And here we go, an actual reboot test as well too. Maybe I'll go ahead and just do one more boot up process as well, just for fun. Felt like almost took about 10 seconds, maybe 11. Not so bad whatsoever considering the speed. So let's just go ahead and shut this machine down one more time. And I'm gonna go ahead and turn it right back on once it's right off. It's already off, so here we go. Another noisy thing on this computer are the DVD drives. I actually still have one on it because I actually do burn some DVDs. And it's posting on the screen. From post, it almost actually seems like more like 3 seconds, which is absolutely nuts. And there she is, completely clear. A little bit in use just because of probably the page file and some other options. This computer does have 64 gigs of RAM, so by default it does suck up a lot of space for the page file. I don't know why Windows does that. It's kind of nonsense, but anyway, absolutely crazy speeds right there, and pretty much double the speed of the 970 Pro thanks to the PCI Express Generation 4 slot. Hey guys, hope everyone found those clips particularly appealing and of course interesting and helpful, especially if you're planning to actually get this drive or still looking into it and just checking out some reviews. But that is actually some amazing numbers. I never thought an SSD would actually have such nutty numbers like that. And just a little on a personal view, many years ago when solid state drives were just coming out and becoming popular and actually was still expensive, I would say it's definitely over $1 just for a gig. So I would say a 120 gigabyte hard drive probably costs about 160, even beyond. I believe my first one was probably at Kingston. But around that time, I saw a YouTube video of a guy who raided, actually it was a group of kids. They ended up and doing a raid project. I forgot how many SSDs there were here. They're possibly about 12, maybe even more. And they were able to all put them all into a RAID 0 configuration, RAID 0 configuration, excuse me, RAID 0. And obviously what that means is the power of each SSD is now being accumulated on top of each other, and you could get something nutty about, back then, what was crazy was around 2,000 megabytes a second. Doing that on RAID on multiple drives. Here we have a drive, well actually, let's go back even further. Here's a box of a 970 Pro, kind of cute to actually keep these. And this was actually hitting 3,500, which actually outperforms that particular project. But mind you, that project dates back to, I'd say, around 2012, 2013, even further back. And now, in 2020, 2021, here we have the 980 Pro hitting 7K, double the speed of the previous generation. And can you imagine rating a couple of these would be like, if that's even possible, if you have a board that can actually accept so many drives. The numbers definitely don't lie. I can actually absolutely imagine what kind of workload you can probably do on this. Real world performance though, you probably will not see your games load much faster unless you're jumping from something significantly much slower to something significantly much faster like this. But between the 970 Pro and the 980, if I'm actually going to load just the game, I wouldn't say I would probably really notice that much of a difference. But in other cases, if you're going to be doing encoding, decoding, video editing, copying files over, it'll be interesting to actually see, oh, you know, 5 seconds left to copy over 2 terabytes. That's a joke. That's exactly where you actually see amazing performances. But if you want to throw an extra few dollars, obviously, for the amazing speeds, why not? And definitely go for it, because this is the next generation. If you actually already have it on your system, your laptop, whatever system you have, definitely go for it. Even if you don't, one day you can always upgrade. I will make a quick note though. I have actually been seeing online that there is actually over time, there's been a little glitch with this particular card where the write speeds begin to basically decrease quite significantly. I've actually seen speeds of around 1500 to 2000 megabytes a second. Still fast, but much slower than 5000. I can understand if it went down to 4000 if you're using maybe 50%, but 1500, there's something going on here. And I believe this has been brought up to Samsung's attention, and they should be receiving the firmware, releasing a firmware update very shortly regarding that. I believe even as early as the end of April. So definitely keep posting on that. If there is an update, I'll definitely put it down in the description below and let you guys know on the details, and also let you know about how this drive is going itself as well too. A little bit of a personal heartbreak of mine, unfortunately. This drive is intended for that beautiful behemoth behind me, which is still waiting for a Ryzen 5900X CPU, or even the 5950. It's now been months and I still don't have it. Well guys, thanks again for watching. I really hope you enjoyed that. Definitely shoot a like and subscribe. Go ahead and shoot over any comments or questions you may have about this drive. If you'd like to go ahead and definitely look back on the 970 Pro videos, I'll put some links below as well too. My review video sometime back regarding that. And anything else, just let me know. I definitely will be doing some more videos on this, but definitely one video, full benchmarks, and seeing if this thing even works on Windows 7. That'll be something. Thanks again for watching, everyone. And as always, stay safe.